Imagine building the most complex, expensive, and heavily armed security network in the history of the world. You wire 5 massive global empires together with thousands of miles of hidden tripwires designed specifically so that if one single alarm goes off, the entire planet instantly detonates. You build a machine of mutually assured destruction so terrifying that no human would ever dare to turn it on. But then a 19-year-old kid with a cheap pistol accidentally trips a single wire in a tiny provincial town, and the system automatically locks the human administrators out of the control room. It initiates a 30-day un-cancellable countdown to the apocalypse. In the software engineering world, we call this a catastrophic runaway, cascading failure caused by tightly coupled architecture. But in the history books, we call it the First World War. Welcome to another episode of History Glitch, where we usually examine exploding space shuttles, crashing corporate networks, and fatal lines of computer code. Today, we are analyzing the ultimate failure of the human operating system. Based on the masterpiece book The Sleepwalkers by Christopher Clark, we are going to dissect the terrifying 30 days in 1914 when the diplomatic architecture of Europe became a rigid, automated machine that stripped the most powerful kings, emperors, and politicians of their own free will, dragging 20 million people into the meat grinder of mechanized warfare simply because the system was not programmed with a cancel button. To understand this monumental glitch, you have to look at early 20th century Europe, not as a collection of countries, but as a massive, highly unstable, poorly optimized computer network. For decades, the great powers Britain, France, Russia, Germany, and Austria-Hungary had been writing lines of secret diplomatic code known as the alliance system. These treaties were essentially massive hard-coded defensive scripts. If country A is attacked by country B, then country C must automatically execute a declaration of war against country B, which triggers country D to attack country C. The intention behind this insane architecture was deterrence. But in system design, this is known as tight coupling. Tight coupling means that a failure in one isolated component does not stay isolated. It instantly and violently ripples through the entire network, overloading the servers and causing a total system crash. The localized glitch occurred on June 28, 1914, in the city of Sarajevo. A massive physical security breach resulted in the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a teenage Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. In a properly isolated operating system with firewalls, this tragic event would have been handled locally as a regional conflict between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. But Europe was a hyper-connected powder keg of legacy code, waiting for a single spark. Austria-Hungary, seeking to completely delete Serbia from the map, asked their ally Germany for support. Germany issued what historians call the blank check, essentially giving Austria-Hungary root access to the massive German military machine. What followed was a terrifying 30-day window, known as the July Crisis. This was the debugging phase. The diplomats, the prime ministers, and the emperors frantically sent thousands of telegrams back and forth across the continent, desperately trying to rewrite the diplomatic code in real time to prevent a global execution command. Christopher Clark calls these leaders sleepwalkers because they were blindly clicking through a series of fatal automated prompts, completely unaware of the massive executable file they were about to launch. They thought they were playing a game of political poker, but they were actually triggering a doomsday algorithm. The absolute point of no return, the fatal hard drive crash occurred when the diplomatic system interacted with the military mobilization schedules. In 1914, mobilizing a massive army of millions of men was not a political suggestion, it was a rigid, highly complex mathematical algorithm. It involved coordinating tens of thousands of trains, moving massive artillery pieces, and locking down entire national railway networks based on strict, down-to-the-minute timetables. Once a nation pressed the enter key on their mobilization sequence, it was physically and mathematically impossible to hit abort without plunging their entire country into absolute logistical chaos, leaving them completely defenseless. When Russia, attempting to simply intimidate Austria-Hungary, initiated its partial mobilization sequence, they inadvertently triggered the master doom code of the German Empire. The German military strategy, known as the Schlieffen Plan, was the ultimate hard-coded, fatal variable. The German algorithm strictly dictated that if Russia mobilized Germany, had to immediately and automatically invade France through neutral Belgium before the Russian army could fully arrive at their eastern border. There was no pause button. There was no diplomatic override. There was no option for a localized defense. When Kaiser Wilhelm II, the Emperor of Germany, panicked at the last second and asked his generals to stop the trains and only deploy to the east, his chief of staff explicitly told him that the mobilization software could not be altered. The timetables were set. The machine had taken over the men. Within a matter of days, the localized glitch in Sarajevo had sequentially activated the un-cancellable mobilization algorithms of Russia, Germany, France, and Great Britain. The tightly coupled alliance network violently executed its programming. The human operating system had completely and utterly failed. The leaders of Europe sat in their dark offices, locked out of their own administrative accounts, watching in absolute horror as the automated trains carried millions of young men directly into the fire and poison gas of the trenches. The diplomatic architecture of 1914 is the ultimate history glitch. It is a terrifying historical testament to the danger of building a system so complex, so interconnected, and so unforgiving that a single localized error can bypass human logic and automatically execute the destruction of an entire civilization. It proves that sometimes the most dangerous algorithms are not the ones running on our silicon microchips, but the ones we write into our treaties, our military doctrines, and our own stubborn human pride. If you want to keep debugging the fatal errors of human history and explore more catastrophic glitches in our operating system, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Leaving a like helps our own channel's algorithm fight back against the void. And if you know of any other historical system crashes or hardware failures, let me know in the comments below. Until the next time the system fails, thank you for watching History Glitch.